Seoul, of course, is literally, sort of eyesight distance from North Korea. And all of this extraordinary expansion of soft power and disruptive nature of changing society is happening next to the world's most closed totalitarian system. In the context of everything we're talking about today, how's that? I mean, you lived in Pyongyang. How is that being taken in North Korea?
I'd like to think that deep down, the North Koreans are secretly proud of BTS and of these Koreans who've made it to the top of the pop cultural world. But officially, South Korean content is prohibited. It does go back and forth, I should say, because we had this amazing moment in 2018, that moment of diplomacy, when Kim Jong-un did step out onto the world stage and he met with then President Trump, he met with President Jae-in, and President Jae-in of South Korea brought K-pop stars to Pyongyang. So I imagine there was a period where it was okay, but this type of thing goes back and forth, and we are back to a period where it is totally taboo. And I'll explain why it's so risky. The North Koreans spent so much time trying to control the flow of information and stop their people from seeing how Koreans on the other side of the DMZ are living. If they could see how influential South Koreans are, how well they're living, then it could raise that question of what are we doing here in North Korea? So I would say that the North Koreans do go to extreme lengths to try to control and shape the narrative about South Korea inside North Korea. But for a period, we had so many North Koreans crossing the border. Every plane that I took was packed with North Korean students, athletes, business people, government officials going to China and seeing what the rest of the world was like. And then you have all those people at the border who were crossing on foot in trucks and doing a lot of trade across the border. This was all before they shut the borders, sealed the borders in January 2020. But before then, for a good period, there was a lot of traffic across the border, not only of goods and people, but of ideas and little USB drives that were loaded with South Korean dramas. And the North Koreans have told me that, hey, if they want to watch something in the outside world, the first thing that they're curious about is South Korean content. They are incredibly curious to see how South Koreans are living. And I have to tell you, as an ethnic Korean who spent time in Pyongyang, you can't help but look at the people of North Korea and think, okay, who would I have been if I had grown up in this regime? And I try to remind South Koreans and Korean Americans that it's just a fluke of fate that we ended up on one side or the other. And so that was an interesting thing for me as an American to be in North Korea and recognize that I could have been one of those people, and who would I have been? And I think North Koreans feel the same way. This content allows them to think about who they might be outside of those restrictive confines of North Korean society and culture.
After 2018, and of course, the Joint Olympic team, which raised such hopes and was really one of the most optimistic moments of the decade globally, does it feel a little bit less dangerous? Because the leaders have seen each other face to face, because there was that at least one chance, even if it didn't lead anywhere, so far at least, did it create a little bit less of that deep-seated, my God, we could be one moment away from Armageddon with all of those nukes and conventional warheads pointed right at you?
I don't think I ever felt safe or comfortable because I knew that behind all the theater and drama of the summits of 2018, the North Koreans were still working on the nuclear program. I never for a minute thought that they were hitting the pause button on that development. And what I was concerned about all this time is, are they fooling us into thinking that we're going to be a bit safer when all along they're working just as hard as ever on that arsenal? And I think that that's the case. And that is the case I've been making all along, is that even as we reach out to the North Koreans and try to engage them, which is something that I do encourage, we have to, it doesn't mean that we give up our sense of distrust or a sense of skepticism. I think we need to hold on to that and be very realistic that these nuclear weapons are incredibly important to them, and that they will continue, because they don't trust us either, they will continue to build this arsenal even as they reach out diplomatically. I will be honest, I feel much more under threat today than I did when I was there, because Kim Jong-un has used the time effectively to expand that arsenal to a degree where it is a verifiable threat, not only to the region, but I would say to the world and to the Korean people.